at all those protein doses, we see an increase in the amount of muscle you're going to build and an increase in that MPS. And, at these low doses, like 6 grams, we actually see a doubling.
Welcome to PricePlow.
Welcome to the PricePlow podcast. I'm here with Todd Spear of Nutrition21. Today, get ready to learn something because we are going to talk about all the ingredients, well, some of the ingredients that Nutrition21 has, namely Velositol, which is a new, and I'm going to let Todd introduce himself, the company, and the ingredient. But we recently wrote a blog post about this Velositol, I'm going to say protein enhancer. And
Yeah.
I wanted to have Todd come on and explain a little bit about it. And then eventually we will also talk about Nitrosigine, which is the nitric oxide inducing pump ingredient that is basically everywhere lately. So we have a whole lot of things to cover, but this is our first time talking, Todd. So I'd like you to introduce yourself and Nutrition21, and let's let it rip from there.
Hey, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. So I'm Todd Spear. I'm the Vice President of Sales at Nutrition21. However, before I was in sales, I was in product development and formulation. So I actually am pretty technical as salespeople go. The ingredient itself is really a novel idea. We're using a starch called Amylopectin and some Chromium to increase the amino acid uptake, which results in an increase in muscle protein synthesis. And of course, that is the process by which you're building muscle. So you actually build more muscle when you take a protein, whether that's a whey protein, a plant protein, or even something like a BCAA.
Okay, great. So just to back it up a little bit, though, with Nutrition21, you mentioned there's
Right.
Chromium in here. Nutrition21 is clearly no stranger to Chromium. Is it kind of your bread and butter as a company?
It was. It was one of the two ingredients the company was founded on was Chromium, or Chromax Chromium Picolinate. And to this day, so we've been doing Chromium research for like 30 years-ish. And to this day, we have something like 20-some patents on Chromium Picolinate and over 70 patents on dietary chromium, various forms of dietary chromium. And so in this formula, we're using a special patented combination of proteins that have kind of a fast-acting component and a slow-acting component. And what you end up with is this very long window of absorption and very high absorption, high bioavailability and usability in the body. And so what Chromium does in the body is actually a cofactor for insulin. And so it helps your body utilize insulin. And I know most people think of insulin in terms of blood sugar, but insulin is also essential for bringing up amino acids. And so what we're doing with this product is we're basically slightly stimulating insulin to help increase the uptake of amino acids. And then we're also improving insulin function. So it's kind of this dual action effect to increase amino acid uptake and utilization by the body, stimulate mTOR and some of the downstream signaling pathways, and then in doing so, increase muscle protein synthesis.
Gotcha. So let's say, and so basically, you do have like a biology background, isn't it? Or
I do, yeah.
Okay. And so let's say I'm a formulator at Mike's supplement brand or whatever, and we're talking about coming out with a new protein. And I've been hearing, I saw on the PricePlow blog, I saw this article about this Velositol ingredient, and I bring you in. And so, like, what is kind of like the pitch that you give to the formulator? Why would I want to spend a little bit of extra money to put this into my new protein powder? Like, what kind of benefits will that provide?
Yeah, I mean that's an excellent question, and that's essentially the question, right? Mm-hmm. The reason you add it is because we've tested this at 6 grams, 20 grams, 30 grams, and 40 grams, and what we've seen is
protein,
that all
protein,
at all those protein doses, we see an increase in the amount of muscle you're going to build, and an increase in that MPS. And, at these low doses, like 6 grams, we actually see a doubling. And we have some data indicating that the 6 grams works as well as, 6 grams of protein plus 2 grams of velocitol is effective in terms of MPS, increasing MPS, as 20 grams of protein post-exercise. So there's a pretty significant effect. But even, there's this protein ceiling. Some people disagree with it. Like Darren Willoughby doesn't like that term because, it's only been tested up to like 50 grams. And his argument is, hey, we don't know what happens at 100 grams of protein. Maybe, picks up again. But when you look at the protein ceiling effect, the amount of muscle protein synthesis you get from 20 grams and 30 grams of protein is statistically the same. And I think that goes up to 40 and 50, that, you're not getting really much in the way of benefit beyond that 20-gram dose because your body can only utilize so much protein. With Velositol, you still hit a ceiling, but the ceiling's at a higher level. So you're able to get more gains from the protein you're taking in.
Okay, and so you mentioned the 6-gram mark. Now that was a human-based study, and it
Yes.
seems like Velocitol's kind of come along over the years, because I remember talking to someone over there, maybe Mallory, about it, maybe three or so years ago. And this is for reference, this is October of 2018, and
Yeah.
so it started off with a pilot study, I believe, probably in rats. I'm not sure what you did. It would be kind of cool to hear about some of the studies, but I know that there was a human one at 6 grams, like you mentioned, of protein with 2 grams of actual Velositol. But
So it's kind of interesting. We jumped straight into a human study, but we did it at 6 grams. And the reason we did it at 6 grams is because we knew there was room for improvement. If we did a 20-gram study and
You're already close
didn't
to
see
seeing.
effects, if you don't get a statistical difference, which in fact we've seen that there is, but not knowing that, we wouldn't know, does Velositol not work, or is it just the ceiling? So we chose a subclinical dose of protein so we could see if there's an improvement, and then we ended up with this huge improvement. We had a doubling of the MPS.
Okay, and is that a direct
And so we did the
measurement of
human
MPS?
Study. What's that?
Is that a direct measurement of MPS?
It is the measurement used is fractional synthesis rate. And as far as I know, that is the measure
Right,
of
I see that a
muscle
lot in a lot
protein
of studies.
synthesis. But that's obviously, I'm not a researcher.
Okay, but okay, so you started right off the bat with the 6 grams of
Yep.
it was like whey protein, I believe.
Yeah, so we did 6 grams of whey protein isolate. And what we did is we had our study subjects come in. We gave them a radio-labeled dose of phenylalanine. Phenylalanine's necessary in the building of muscle. It's always there, and so it's a great way of tracking it. So what we did is we had these subjects come in for 8 hours. And we gave them their radio-labeled phenylalanine. We measured their baseline MPS over a 4-hour period. Then we gave them either whey protein or whey protein isolate. And this is a double-blind, placebo-controlled crossover study.
Nice.
So each subject is their own control. In other words, they've taken it both with protein, 6 grams of protein by itself, or 6 grams of protein with Velositol.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know what they're getting when they're doing the study.
And you can't really taste the difference from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's pretty much flavorless. I mean, if you tasted it straight, there's a little something there, but not much.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, when you taste the two study products, you're not going to be able to notice a difference.
Gotcha.
And so, what was I going to say? So then, so they did the protein. So they take their protein or protein plus Velositol, and then they do 8 sets of leg presses to 80% maximum, and then we take more bloods and muscles biopsies, and that's what I should put in. So to establish that first 4-hour baseline, we're taking both blood samples and muscle biopsies. So we had a surgeon in there, surgically removing pieces of bicep. And I always joke, I wonder, like, at what point, the researcher said, okay, we're going to cut your leg and then we're going to have you do leg
I was wondering
presses.
about that actually. You have to cut them up and then you ask them to do some training. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's, really, really small pieces of tissue they're removing,
Uh-huh.
but still, I can't imagine that was a fun study
That
to
kind of
be
sucks.
to
Well,
participate.
that's why the participants either get paid or they're
They get
students
paid.
or I don't know, maybe they're doing community
I think
service.
both. I think they're students and they did get paid pretty well from what I understand. So lots of beer money. Yeah, and so what we saw so with that model, we can see, in the first 4 hours what the baseline is, and then you can see the increase. And so, you're essentially you establish the baseline, you can see what it is plus whey, and what the growth the fractional synthesis whey is as whey plus velositol.
Hmm.
And when you compare the gains they got from whey compared to, just baseline to whey plus velositol, there's double the muscle protein synthesis. And
Right.
that's
And so
so,
keep going.
sorry. Well, and then obviously the next question is, that everybody asks is, well, this is great. It works at 6 grams, great for protein cookies or whatever, but what other doses does this work at? So we actually went to an animal model at that point and created doses that were the human equivalent of 6, 20, 30, and 40. And it's pretty complex because you have to actually figure out the rats. It's not just like a body weight to body weight because you have to make calculation changes for their metabolism. And basically, we completed that exact same study design, but with with animals instead of humans. And what we saw was that each protein dose, first of all, we got a similar response at the 6 gram
Okay, so
dose.
that one you kind of controlling
So
the same types
we
of
knew that
even
it matched
exercises
up
and
to
all
our
that.
human
You do your
study
best
very
to.
well. And then
Okay,
at the higher doses, we see again that there's a significant improvement. I wish I had memorized the exact percentages, but at 20 grams, it's something like 40% increase in muscle protein synthesis, and at 40 grams, I think it's something like 20 grams. I would obviously not put that on a label without double checking it,
right.
but
No, yeah. So rewinding back to like when the 6 gram study came out, the study actually says a suboptimal dose of whey protein or something in the title, and then you
Mhm.
see the bar charts and it's like twice as much as the other one. I'm like, oh god, here we go. And so like as someone who has to approach things skeptically. First
Sure.
off, I have two kind of routes to go with here, but 6 grams isn't actually necessarily unheard of because, like you mentioned, protein cookies
Yep.
or just essential amino acid or BCA supplements are going to
Right.
have something between that 4 to 8 gram range. Typically, 5 grams,
Yep.
6 grams of essential amino acids. A lot of things are moving towards the essential amino acids. So it actually seems like not just a whey protein powder, but this might work well for an EAA kind of supplement, which are coming on up too.
Yeah, and so this another leg of that, and this is one of the reasons why we use animals, because there were so many different things. That was such a huge study. There were so many animals involved. In humans, it just would have been, it would have been a multi-million-dollar study.
Right.
And really it was more about proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, so we did an arm of that study where we looked at the effect in BCAAs. We used 6 grams of BCAAs to tie into that whey protein, and then the other thing we looked at was pea protein. So we had an incomplete vegetable protein, and my argument was, hey, let's most veggie proteins are a blend. Let's use a blend so we can match the amino acid profile. And again, Darren Willoughby, who was an advisor to us on this, said, no. Just choose one protein, because if you use multiple proteins, you don't know, is it working on just one of those proteins or is it working on all the proteins?
Mm-hmm.
And so again, we used pea protein, and it was real questionable going into the study whether or not that was going to work. Same with the BCAAs, because those are incomplete proteins. And yet we did see that we had a significant improvement in both. So it works on all the forms of protein we've tested. We've also subsequently tested it on soy protein, and it has actually a bigger effect on soy protein than on pea protein, which is interesting.
Right, right. Okay. So it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like Nutrition21, from the user's perspective, it's an ingredient company, but like the more I hear it, it's almost like a research company. What are you?
We we're obviously an ingredient company. That's what pays the bill. That's why we exist.
Right.
But internally, I think there is a bit of a view of ourselves as a research company. Everything we do is research driven, clinically substantiated. Our where Nutrition 21 differentiates itself from some of its competitors, and obviously I'm not, I don't mean to throw shade on any suppliers in the industry, is that we spend a lot of money on researching and substantiating our study. We don't just throw a generic ingredient out there with a brand name on it.
Mm-hmm.
We create the brand name, we create the ingredient, and we're doing research to make sure it works. And we've got a pipeline of products in development, and you'd be surprised how often you get going down the pipeline, going down the path, looking at researching an ingredient, and it just doesn't work the way you thought it was going to.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up, shelving that, throwing it away, not bringing it to market. And that's just the way product development is, on the ingredient side.
Right. And so with your job I believe you're the national sales director. So you're mostly, you travel a lot. It looks like you work out of home.
Yes.
So you're talking to all sorts of customers. Now we're always in the world right now. We're in the world of sports nutrition. Nitrosigine is a nitric oxide ingredient that's oftentimes in the pre-workout supplements. Once again, like kind of male-based sports nutrition. But like looking at this, the people who also get suboptimal doses of protein could be the elderly. You're not necessarily.
Yeah. Well,
do you
so
approach those accounts at all? Like Ensure, for instance, is that someone that?
yeah, I mean that's obviously somebody we'd love to work with, and it's interesting. So in seniors, there's a natural condition called sarcopenia, which is basically as you age, you naturally lose muscle. And what we've found, and I think at some point we will probably look at a study in seniors with sarcopenia, because so I mentioned earlier that Velositol not just works on the mTOR pathway, one of the pathways that stimulates muscle protein synthesis. Downstream from mTOR, there's a couple pathways that we've looked at, S6K1 and 4EBP1, and which I'm sure mean so much to everybody in the audience. But the S6K1 activity is in seniors. We know that pathway is impaired, and so the fact that it is impaired in seniors, and it's the reason they can't really, or they have trouble building or maintaining muscle. And so in Velositol, since Velositol upregulates that, there's potential that Velositol could be very beneficial to that group of people. Of course, at this point, it's just conjecture, but it's certainly of interest. I mean, we've all got parents, right? And I, for one, want to see my parents live as long and healthily as they can. And I'm sure most people do.
Right, right. Yeah, and they're not always throwing down 150 grams of protein every day, or eating the chicken breast and lean beef as much as some of the people that listen to this channel might. So it's almost like you want to get as much out of your protein as you can.
Yeah, I mean, my mom's a vegetarian. She's the perfect example. I mean, she's conscientious about her veggie protein intake, but she's definitely when she's out visiting, I watch what she eats, and she does not consume anywhere near as much protein as I would like her to consume.
Right.
And so, having her supplement with whey and Velositol is, ideal, or I guess, a veggie protein and Velositol.
Soy and soy's come out of vogue a lot lately. I'm not afraid of a scoop of soy here or there, or or a protein bar made out of soy, because the taste
Yeah,
is pretty good on those. But yeah, it sounds like
they
protein bars
are.
could be one of the areas you go after as well.
Yeah, we've done prototypes and protein bars and protein cookies. It works great. They taste great. You can't tell it's in there.
Hmm.
And of course, most of the protein cookies in particular are kind of like that more of a luxury food, if you will, for, the real hard bodybuilders, right?
Hmm.
They're a little higher carbohydrate and a little lower protein than, obviously, like an isolate shake.
Hmm.
Um, and so they're usually in that, 12 to 18 gram. And so, somebody produce a product with Velositol in it, then I think that we'd be really smart, because then you're getting more out of that, suboptimal dose. You're getting everything you can out of that bit of protein.
Gotcha. All right, yeah. So, are you cool to talk about some of your brands, some of your customers? I know that the way this all started for us
Absolutely.
was we did a review on the BN Labs Pure Whey Protein Isolate. I think we
Great
still got a
product.
coupon at subs.com for that one. And then
Nice.
we are about to go through the launch of, this is like the first time showing this, and it might be out by the time this video goes live, but this is Olympus Labs of Superior Protein. And right here, this is an interesting one, but yeah, right here, I definitely see the Velositol right there at 2 grams. So it provides 2 grams of high amylopectin starch from waxy maize and 1,000 micrograms of chromium comprised of histidinate and picolinate. And so 2 grams of it goes in there. So how does it work? They're talking about getting a protein in. They call you in. You fly on over. Or do you have a sales team there? What happens?
We do have a sales team. There's myself and 2 other salespeople. We've worked with Olympus for a long time, going back to, I think Conquer was their
Yeah.
pre-workout at the time. And I
Right.
think it was their only product. And I remember like their first order was for nitrosigine, and they ordered like 25 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think
So
that was like
is
a
that
year
a low
supply,
amount? Like,
right?
is that, you laugh, but we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know those
that's
numbers.
that's our minimal amount. I
Right. Okay.
mean, that's not a lot of doses. So they were just starting out, and they're a great group of people. So we've worked with them over the years. Um, I can't remember particularly whether I pitched to them or they saw us at one of the trades, saw the product at the trade show, or just got one of our press releases. But yeah, we worked with them. They were definitely very, they're aggressive about new technologies,
Yeah, which
and
is
so
why it's fun
they
to write
saw,
about their stuff.
yeah, and so when they saw Velocitol, they were really quickly like, "Hey, tell us more. We want to know more about this. What's it cost? The whole works. Give us the science." And they liked it, and they've actually this is the Superior Proteins, their second Velocitol product. The Endure
Oh,
also
right.
has a 2 gram dose.
And that's an amino supplement, so that kind of plays to what I was saying earlier. I forgot about
Yeah,
that. Cool. Yeah, one thing I noticed, and I'm not sure if you could talk numbers or price, but at least with the BN Labs one, the price, and this, I know some of the launch prices for this, the prices aren't so much that, the BN Labs one was a decent deal. So it's like the prices aren't so much that, obviously, I don't think the Velocitol is really raising things to a degree where it becomes a risky endeavor or anything.
right.
For me, it's like, okay, I trust the research on Chromium, and I'd like to get a little bit back into to that discussion, but it's like I trust the research on the Chromium, and the protein looks good, and the price wasn't too bad. We had a coupon for it and everything, and so it was like,
Yeah.
to me, I think what I said in the review is like, if you're into like new ingredients, this is kind of a one that even I would recommend to the conservative users who don't always like new ingredients, especially because you have studies and I'm not sure if you've gone down the route of like of safety and all that, but Nutrition21
We
seems to
do.
really not put something out there unless there is at least some sort of like toxicity study. So maybe you can
So
speak to
yeah, I
that.
mean, we've got grass. So our grass, generally recognized as safe
Hmm.
status, allows for 3 doses or 3.5 doses of Velocitol a day. 2 gram doses.
Okay.
And we've got so much research on chromium safety. And yeah, so um, that's one thing that you definitely get with us. You not only do we do the clinical research to prove that it works, our first thing is this product safe? Are there negative side effects? So there's national toxicology program studies, and of course naturally there's LD50 studies. And the nice thing about chromium is there's actually no upper tolerable limit. Some of the minerals like selenium can be very, very toxic, right? But chromium's not one of them. Basically, your body uses what you need and excretes the rest, just like vitamin B. So there's really no harm in taking pretty large doses of chromium. The RDA on chromium is like 120 micrograms, although there's been a proposed change, and I forget what it is going down. I just forget what that dose is. However, if you look at the research, we know that there's really no benefit to chromium until you get to the 200 microgram levels. And what we've found over the 30 years of research is that there's a dose-dependent response. And basically, the higher the dose, the better effect. We've seen up at 1,000 micrograms, we've seen improvements in cognitive function. Basically, we're improving the way your brain utilizes sugar. And that's a whole nother discussion. I mean, because, there's a lot of clinical research now that shows Alzheimer's and dementia, are related to elevated blood sugar.
Yeah, we actually made a huge blog post about that. There's a ton of data coming out of England or Ireland, and the higher HbA1c levels were, the way greater your chances of getting dementia were. And it was pretty. It was pretty.
There was in New York. There was I think it was New England Journal of Medicine study a couple years ago, and made the New York Times, that showed just being on the high end of normal, like doubled or tripled your risk of these, forms of dementia.
Jeez.
Yeah. So it's definitely beneficial to keep your blood sugar down. And so having chromium in your diet can help, keep your chromium or your blood sugar down. There's actually a qualified health claim on chromium picolinate, and it's the only form of chromium that has a qualified health claim. Which is interesting because in every other mineral where there's a qualified health claim, that's basically where the FDA says, okay, your research shows this is true enough that you can say it. They never fully get behind you, right? But so like for calcium, there's a qualified health claim about bone health. Mm-hmm. But it applies to all form of calcium. There's a qualified health claim, I think for selenium. But it's for all forms of selenium. With chromium, the only form that's allowed to make a qualified health claim is chromium picolinate, because it just works so much better than other forms. Chromium histodenate, chromium nicotinate or polynicotinate, whatever you want to call it, chromium chloride, they bind to starch in the presence of starch. So if you take, a chrome nic or a chromic chloride supplement, and you happen to eat that with a starchy meal, which is one of the reasons why people take chromium.
Right, that's why it's okay.
Want that. It binds to the chromium, passes through your body without being absorbed. Chromium picolinate, that doesn't happen. It's not bound by starch.
So what does happen at that point?
So what happens is it makes its way into your bloodstream. Mm-hmm. And actually I can send you a pretty cool video on this if you want. Yeah, okay. But it binds to so basically your body takes it in, it uses it to open up the GLUT4s, which are kind of the pathway for transporting sugar from the blood into the cell mitochondria where it's utilized. And so it's, like I said, it's a cofactor for the utilization of insulin. Without chromium, your insulin can't bind to these GLUT4 activators and utilize sugar, which is why in diabetics you have high blood sugar. So because the insulin is, actually I'm not an expert, but basically the insulin's bound. They have a deficiency of chromium, and the insulin gets bound to compound like inflammatory compounds, like I think C-reactive protein, and then it can't be utilized in the body to bring the blood sugar down. And eventually, of course, So I guess that's more like in the pre-diabetic stage. And then at a certain point, your body, your pancreas wears out and you don't produce insulin anymore.
Right.
And so that's why diabetics take insulin, is because their pancreas is either not producing enough or not producing insulin at all.
Right. Okay. And so chromium can help a lot of people. As someone who gets in and out of the keto diet, I might want to dabble with that, because I'm at the point where I'm not afraid to take this stuff even without carbs, and just to watch what happens, especially if my body's able to produce ketones. Is there any connection there at all with chromium and the keto diet, or have you kind of stuck with the carbs and everything?
There is. So I would say I'm not an expert on the keto
Right.
diet, but I have customers that, and I don't want to, you know, tell the world what they're doing before they do it. But I have a customer that's, got a keto product, a keto supplement that they're adding Chromax to. And I have another company that's looking at using Velositol. Because basically, of course, in a protein diet, everybody, I mean, in a keto diet, you think of it as a high protein, but it's really not. It's really high fat. You really need to regulate that amount of protein, right? And so if you're a bodybuilder and you're taking, trying to be a ketogenic diet, then you really need to kind of maximize the protein. Because if I recall correctly, it's about 80% fat, 12% protein, and 8% carbs is the ideal diet. So they're using basically Velositol in their product to maximize the protein that they're taking for their weight, their bodybuilding gains.
Right, and that's kind of where I'm getting. So, I don't like to say like there is the keto diet. There's you kind of your keto diet. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
a little bit of flexibility, but for me, I'm so sensitive, and with the protein, it's like if I'm under 140 grams of protein in a day where I train, then I start to wither, and if I'm over 150, 155 grams of protein, then I spike my blood sugar, go into gluconeogenesis, and then eventually just my ketones drop. So it's like so sensitive. So one of the things I want to do is start hacking with some of these different supplements, the glucose disposal agents and insulin mimickers and things like chromium, to see if that can help, and I can hack in a little bit extra protein without cheating, without falling out of ketosis. So that's an area of interest, and it's cool that someone's like kind of going down that road, because I see the problem. It's like once, and we're all different, obviously, and some of us, some people, can whip out ketones in an hour. Some people just can't like do it easily at all, and I have no problem getting into ketosis, but it's easy for me to fall out. So that's one of the one of the challenges I have. So I kind of like seeing that.
Actually, are you familiar with the Ambrosia Collectives? They have that morning ritual.
Right,
is
ritual.
the name of the product.
Yeah,
that has Velositol in it, along with I think BHB, or what is it? Go BHB.
Yeah, there is BHB.
I don't know if
and
it's
I
a
think there's
brand.
like 6 grams of protein actually. So
Yeah. Yep. So that was, Mark Lobliner, he's, again, one of these guys that's really dialed into the research. When there's something new, he wants all the details immediately, and he just, absorbs it all and focuses. And so he's involved with the Ambrosia Collective. And so that was a pretty early adopter, and probably the first product that we had that really, actually, definitely the first product we had that was really addressing the keto diet customer.
Cool. Yeah. So when I was looking at this label, one thing I saw was with the Olympus Labs protein, the Velositol. It mentions that you have first. I'm going to want to get into the amylopectin if we have any information on that. But it says Velositol. We have 1,000 micrograms of chromium. From the two forms in there. Is that a standard all the time, or are there different levels of chromium and different like flavors or varieties of Velositol you have, or is it always like 2 grams comes with 1,000 micrograms of chromium?
Yeah, so 2 grams of Velositol is 1,000 micrograms of chromium. Always.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, there are products on the market where, for whatever reason, they have split that dose. For like example, GNC's AMP protein has 1 gram of Velositol, so 500 micrograms. But if you look at their product, they're telling you to take it, many times a day.
Okay.
But their precision BCAAs is the full 2 gram dose. And I think, part of the reason is, or it could be part of the reason is that, I think that their customers who are using precision BCAAs are likely using the AMP. So they're getting, they might very well be using those same products in the same day. So, it makes sense that you don't really necessarily need the full dose if you're taking another dose earlier in the day.
Gotcha. And okay. And so the amylopectin, so amylopectin is a starch that comes out of waxy maize. Waxy maize
Yep.
used to be maybe circa 2008, right when we were starting PricePlow. I think that was kind of like the carb du jour, and
Yep.
it's got some interesting benefits. But I bought it once and stopped using it because it's like just a completely messy disaster. But anyway,
It's kind of sticky, isn't it?
no, it's a disaster. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so why is amylopectin in this product? Like, what is that doing? Is that kind of like spiking the insulin so you could drive it in,
Yeah.
or like something like that?
So the concept early on was, can we just kind of slightly tickle an increase in insulin without it going outside, the healthy normal range? So that we can get that insulin out there to pull up the amino acids, but, not cause a true insulin spike that nobody wants. Like, you eat a slice of white bread and your insulin goes through the roof. It's like, bread. I don't know if we can use that brand, but, that kind of product, we probably have to edit that out.
Oh no,
Yeah,
Todd, you're killing me.
I just made an edit for you. Sorry about that.
Team.
Yeah, but that kind of, classic American very white bread is actually used a lot in studies because it causes that very high sugar spike because it's so easily digestible. Amylopectin, it's not going to cause that kind of spike, and we're using such a small dose. It just increases just a tiny bit. In fact, I can send you the data. It's in the study. You can see that what we saw was, there's this small, clinically insignificant increase of insulin, but it's clearly significant because we've had a benefit.
Right.
And then, but if you look at the blood glucose levels don't change at all compared to the placebo group. So there's no increase in fat storage.
Right. In our blog post, we do show that chart with the blood sugar doesn't increase. That's where I'm always interested if I'm trying to keep blood sugar down, but you're still able to attack muscle protein synthesis at the same time. Seems like kind of a best of both worlds situation.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, the idea was to exactly that, trigger just that slight increase so that you're not, negatively affecting anybody's health, but still able to increase the uptake of amino acids. And what we found, so we were able to get a non-GMO, highly soluble, instantized, actually, I don't know if it's instantized, but highly soluble version of amylopectin that we were able to use in our product. And, it mixes very well with the chromium so that it can be, added to protein or bars or, whatever it is that you're adding it to, and get the benefit.
So if I wanted to just get a regular, like very pure whey protein isolate shake and just add chromium, or have a Chromax tablet or something like that.
Yeah, it would not show the same benefit, because protein by itself, while it can stimulate insulin, it doesn't stimulate it as well as carbohydrates. And there's a lot of studies that show if you take protein or BCAAs with a carbohydrate, you will get more, a better result. You'll get more muscle protein synthesis. It's kind of the great irony of, protein right now is everything's like zero carb, but it would actually work a little bit better if it had just a little bit of carb in there.
Right.
And so that's actually what we're doing with Velositol. We're actually putting a little bit of carb back in, and we're adding the chromium to make it more properly utilized.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's one of the things. Even as a low carber, I always say, like, listen, if you're gonna do carbs or gonna have carbs, or you're gonna even like eat sweet tarts, the time to do it is pre-workout. Like that's the time. I know that's for me. You might as well enjoy it and then go and take and use that energy. That's the time. It's like before bed when people have dessert. No, that's not the time to have your
That's the
sugar, in my
wrong
opinion.
time. That's when you get it stored as love handles, right?
Yep, there goes the dad bod that could
Yep.
get us all. So, all right. So, I think that covers most of it. Yeah, I wanted to know, like, a little bit about the amylopectin. We talked about some of the products that are out there, some of the people out there. So, what else is coming from Nutrition21? Obviously, I think what we'll do is at another time we're going to schedule a call talk about nitrosigine, because you've gotten, so give us a little lead in into that. Like I'm on your email list, and you kind of send press releases all the time, and so you are.
We do a lot of research, and so I'm sure you get
you're
hammered
pumping
with
it out
it.
with nitrosigine. What's going on over there?
Yeah, so nitrosigine, first of all, it's widely used at this point. It's been on the market. So for at this point, Velositol is 2 years on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Nitrosigine entered the market in late 2013, so we're pushing 5 years on that. And then we've done, I'm not even sure at this point, I think 6 or 7 clinical trials on nitrosigine, looking at a wide range of things. Our early clinical studies, it's a nitric oxide booster. Mm-hmm. So naturally with nitric oxide, you think pump. And so we did our initial studies on pump and blood flow and saw positive results. Well, one of the things people started reporting, including the people who work for Nutrition21, and I take nitrosigine pretty much every day now, is we were seeing an increase in energy, and we were seeing an increase in focus when we were doing our work. And so people in the gym were noticing that. So we designed a study that looked at clinically, how does this people feel, and how does this affect their energy levels, and does this affect cognitive function? And we've shown that it's positive. It increases energy levels. It's non-stimulant, but still increases energy. And the clinical data we have now is phenomenal. We've got 33% improvements in trail making tests, which are used, a standard test used to measure cognitive function. And it's been used in athletes, been used in seniors. It's pretty much the go-to test to measure cognitive function. And when you look at that, we've got this 33% improvement. There's really nothing that I'm aware of on the market that can move anywhere near that. That's an 18-second improvement in our study. If you look at caffeine, you expect to see a 5 to 7 second improvement.
Jeez, really?
Yeah, so we're seeing a much bigger effect than with caffeine. We've just completed a study on gamers, where people are playing, the first-person shooter, high-intensity video games for an hour. We've done study on fatigued athletes, and shows it prevents a 51% decline in cognitive function and decision making. Think about that relative to, any athlete. Think about the quarterback, right? The quarterback is most likely to have an interception in the fourth quarter.
Right, decision
Once
fatigue.
they're fatigued physically, mentally, they've been making decisions all game long. Well, what we've shown is under fatigue conditions, nitrosigine not just prevents the 51% decline in decision making and cognitive function, we actually still improve upon their decision making and their cognitive function.
Awesome. And then the latest thing I saw was that it also inhibits arginase or something like that. So it's like got a dual effect.
How could I forgot? So we had, when you look at nitrosigine, it works in as low as 15 minutes and lasts up to 6 hours. If you look at regular arginine, you get a spike that works for the very first hour, and that's it. Clinically, it drops back down, and there's no more increase in nitric oxide levels. We were seeing an increase in nitric oxide and arginine levels for 6 hours. So we had an inkling that it had to be blocking arginase. So we did some more research, and sure enough, we were able to establish the fact that we're blocking arginase. And it's pretty neat because when you look at the curve that we get on the duration of, increased arginine levels and the duration of decreased arginase, they're mirror images of each other. So, you think of things like norvaline, which has some issues, of course, blocking arginase. Mm-hmm. Well, now we're showing that with nitrosigine, we're blocking arginase. So, you likely don't need to add norvaline and deal with those issues.
Awesome. All right. Thanks. Well, obviously, so that's a good bit of information, but I think we should
save that for the next one.
Drill down deeper on that one because that's is that your number one ingredient that you're talking about when accounts bring you in and stuff?
It is. People love it. It's experiential. You try it, you get a very positive feeling. It's not like like a niacin flush. It's just a really positive. I describe it kind of like a tingling sensation. So not only do you get that kind of nice feeling from it, but you see this increase in energy. You see this increase in focus. I like to take it in the afternoon, like when my coffee's wearing off. It's a great afternoon pick-me-up. It doesn't keep me from sleeping at night. Obviously, I use it also right before I go to the gym. In fact, when we're done here, I'm going to hit the gym.
Awesome. All right, well then on that note, we will let you go. But so Nutrition21.com, I know your social medias, you kind of have like different accounts for Velositol and Nitrosigine. Are you going to combine those into a Nutrition21 account? Or
we are. That is the long-term plan, is to find those and focus more on the social. But right now, if you want to find products with either Nitrosigine or Velositol, go to nitrosigine.com or velositol.com. Mm-hmm. You can see the list of products.
All right, and then you could always sign up for the newsletter on PricePlow because we're going to have blog posts coming out with that. And eventually, long-term or medium-term, I'll say, is like right now. So right now you can sign up for alerts on certain brands like Olympus Labs here or certain types of products like protein powder here. The categories, brands, and specific products, if you want alerts on them. We don't allow you to sign up for alerts on something like Nitrosigine or something like Velositol. So eventually, like anything that's tagged with Velositol, I want to be able to give you an alert on a phone,
that's pretty cool.
through an email or through the phone app, and so I'm pulling those pieces together for now. But yeah, right now we don't have a way of really notifying anyone about updates from Nutrition21. So Todd, for that I'm sorry, but I am working on it behind the scenes. Yeah, but yeah, you guys definitely keep busy with the research, and you can sign up to your newsletter, and you get all those press releases and all the new products that come out with with your ingredients and everything. So congratulations on the success, and I appreciate you coming by and everything. And we'll definitely have to do this again. And, and we will do this again because we're going to be talking about Nitrosigine in a lot more detail.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and you ask great questions that I'm sure that your readers and listeners and watchers are interested in hearing, and so it's a great forum for us to educate the consumer on what our product does. So we really appreciate you helping us out there.
Hey, no problem. All right, thanks. You have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Welcome to PricePlow.